recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Need a part for the right price? Look for that red and blue sign. Henley Auto Supply at 1510 Stonewall. Over 800,000 CarQuest parts to choose from. Domestic, European, and Asian parts. Henley Auto Supply at 903-455-1969. 455-1969. Henley Auto Supply has the right parts to keep your vehicle running. And backed by the best hometown service. Henley Auto Supply. Great people, great products, great prices. Henley Auto Supply and CarQuest.
Okay, I'll call this work session to order at 5 o'clock, January 25th work session. And what we're going to do is Press Tompkins is going to provide a presentation regarding the street bond program. And following his presentation, if you have questions, well, if you'd submit a citizen's comment card to the city secretary, then we will recognize you in time and you can ask questions and he'll try to respond to those questions. And we'll take comment cards anytime during the presentation. Allow him to make the presentation first, if you would please, and then you can come forward with your comments and we'll try our best to answer your questions. So thank you very much. And press, are you ready to roll?
That now working? Okay.
Testing.
What I've done, this presentation is on this board and this board, but on this board here I can use the pointer and point things out, so that's why I was going to sit here so the audience can see what's going on. Carol, can you hit the next slide? Where'd it go? I had it scheduled for 5:05, so I'm for question.
Mine not even old enough to do. Mine not even old enough to be.
What we did for our road bond, our payment management, we hired a company called Roadway Assess System. Can you hear me now? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just speak here and I'll turn to there if I need to point to something. Okay, is that better? Okay. Can you all hear me now? Is that better? Gabe? Okay, All right, well, what we did, we hired a company that came into town with their laser-guided van that went there and they assessed all the roads in the city. They took payment condition of every road. We looked at everything in there, and based upon that, we came up with what is known as a payment condition index, based upon the way the roads were failing, not failing, the cracks in them, the distortions in them, what was going on, and it puts it into a paver program. Paver program is a nationally recognized pavement management program that was originally made by the Corps of Engineers. You can go to the next slide. So what they did was they did all the roads in the city. And I have a bigger slide out in the lobby, a bigger presentation of this. But you can essentially see, yes, sir? Okay. You essentially see majority of the roads in here are red, which means they're in very poor condition or failing. And our average PCIs run from 0 to 100, 100 being a brand new road. You try to keep your PCIs around in the 65 to 70 range. Our average PCI in the city is 46. So we have a vast majority of our streets are failing. And this is what this graphic kind of shows. You can see how much of the red sticks out of it. Okay. And this is what is known as our pavement deterioration curve. And you can see how it starts out at 100, how it goes down in the years of span. So right now, our roads are in poor condition. You know, right here, we're at the 16, 17-year range of a road. We try to keep them up here between satisfactory and fair. 55 is critical. Once you hit that, your road, you can see how fast they deteriorate once you come down that curve. Next slide. And what this means is it shows you here what type of work you can do. And you're talking about when you're up in this range, you can do milling and overlaying, possibly some crack sealing on very minor things, but you can do a mill and overlay in this area. Once you get down in this area, you're looking at full depth reclamation, which means you're fixing the base material, the sub-base material, and redoing the asphalt and all that. That's about 10 times more expensive than the milling and overlay. So in pavement management, people have the inclination that once you pave a road, it's there forever. It's not. You have to maintain it over a period of time. There's a lot of products out called rejuvenation that try to help maintain or prolong the life of the road. What people don't see is, particularly in Florida and Texas, with the heat we have in the summer, the top layer of the roads oxidize. That's why they turn gray. A lot of people say, well, how come our roads aren't black? Because we have such heat in the summer that the top layer of the road will oxidize and turn gray. There's a lot of product out there that you can put on the road to help basically put those fines back in it to help that top layer. Or same thing, you can do mill and overlay, which gives you more structural stability in it. Okay. This was just a graph we put together showing the comparison between asphalt roads and concrete roads. Yeah, concrete roads cost more, but you have a longer life cycle. You don't have to do any maintenance on or little maintenance, where in asphalt, you're looking at about a 15 to 20-year cycle to rejuvenate them, to bring them back to their condition. So that's why we do a lot of roads here in Greenville, because of soil conditions with concrete. And I will stress, this is reinforced concrete, okay? What we had done next as part of the plan was, once we had the PCIs, so we knew the road condition, we hired a company who went and did our traffic counts. And they did majority of the roads in the city. We did some interpolations based upon the Institute of Traffic Engineers formulas for generating trip generation. A trip is a two-way trip. It's in and out. So what we did with this, based upon all the data they came up with, was basically our high-volume collector roads and the corresponding PCIs kind of validated what we had said from the commission from day one, that our collector roads, our arterial roads, is the ones we need to concentrate on to get the people from where they live to where they work and where they shop and places like that. So this validated what we had said, that what the volume of the traffic had on there and the PCIs and the truck traffic on there is what we needed to fix. Okay. And this is what we had come up with, these streets. You can see these are a lot of our major collectors with the PCIs, 42, 47, 59, 39, 41. So you can see all of them are in very poor condition. And that's where we're in the process now. We just started on Carroll Street. We've started on Stanford Street. We've done some other stuff in the southern part of town where we could do mill and overlays to extend the life of the roads another 18 to 20 or 22 years. The ones in the south, go ahead and go to the next slide. This is an overall map that we did of what the work we're doing in the city. But by extended, you can see the green areas in here. Carol, you can go to the next. We kind of blew this up. Northern part of the town, here's a green area. We can do mill and overlay there because the utilities are good. These areas that we have in purple, all the water and sewer has to be replaced. They're shot. They're old cast iron pipes. They're old clay pipes. In fact, we dug up a clay pipe the other day. There was no pipe left. It was a hole in the ground. And it was taking raw sewage. So go to the next one, please. What I was talking about down here in the south part, these subdivisions were in the 18 to 20-year age, but the water and sewer was good. We had to do some curb replacement, some valley gutters in there, but by milling and overlaying these roads, we were able to extend them another 20 years. So that's the reason why these were chosen, that we could get to work, get these done while we're up here working on other streets. There's Carroll. We had, the city utilities had replaced the water line in Carroll several months ago in anticipation of this. So that's why that was done. That's a major collector between those two roads. It takes a good bit of traffic. So that was our process that we said we would do the payment condition index, which we did. We then had the traffic counts overlaid on top of that, which we did that too. And we're using the data that is telling us what we need to do based upon also our local knowledge of the roads, or what water and sewer needs to be done, what roads are that don't need to have that done. But a lot of our water and sewer system is old, 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, if not older. A lot of it is cast iron pipe. An example of that was last year, we had the cast iron pipe on Lee Street in front of the courthouse cracked right down the middle. So we had to completely tear that whole thing up and replace it, and then replace that portion of Lee Street. That was a major undertaking to take that with all the services and everything that was in the city. But that's what happens to us, and we don't have any real prior knowledge to it when stuff like that goes. This is just another blow up of where we did these streets. We have the Dent Road, which is going out to bid now. That was under a different bond. We got Stonewall Street done. That was a different bond, but Stonewall's completed. I would say Sale Street is probably around 80% now. We've got it open all the way through Lark, or a little bit further, but they should be finished that in the next couple months. That's been a vast improvement on Sale Street. That's basically the presentation that I wanted to share with everybody, that our process is what we've been following. We're trying to follow the data we had collected on the PCIs, the traffic counts, really what needs to be done. So at this time, I'll be glad to answer any questions I can, any of them that y'all may have in the audience, or the council members for that fact.
mouse go dial here? Okay, well, we'll split the difference. Good evening, Wayne Morris, 5600 Vale Street, Greenville, 75402. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, press, for the presentation. And all the members of the city staff for putting this presentation together. I got several questions, followed by just a quick observation. I'd like to know who is picking the streets and what is to be accomplished on same. Press has identified partially part of that, but we haven't seen a complete list. Is it the Transportation Committee? Is it press? Is it another staff member or press? And who or the ultimate person or persons giving to proceed on the same? That's not clear. One thing I noted, yes, of what's to be done, and the feeder streets and such of that, such as Stonewall and Sale. The problem is coming off some of the streets, crossing east to west or west to east, to get to these feeder streets, particularly Wesley, which is State Street, or Stonewall. The connecting streets from Aileen to Mitchell, to include Webb and those running down to Eastland, they're shot. Doesn't do me much good if I destroy my vehicle, you know, on a 60-yard road to get to the new G-Wist feeder streets. So I'd like to see that paid a little bit more attention to. Since we've got all this data now, all the papers in and everything else, and press has put together some good slides in that. Once again, I would like to see this put on the city website under separate tab, where the taxpayers and citizens can go and see the status of what's been done, what's coming up, and what's to be done, what streets are selected, what's to be done to them, i.e. mill and overlay, total rebuild, the paver data score as compared to other streets in that area, the other determinant factors such as traffic flow, feeder, et cetera, and what council place are these streets in. This data should include streets that have already been accomplished and those on future efforts. Thank you very much.
Okay. What we have done, everything that we have done has been taken to the Transportation Committee or full council. Everybody has looked at this. As far as your question, we looked at all the side streets from Stonewall to Wesley. Unfortunately, from basically where Brahms Ice Cream is going north, all the water and sewer in those streets needs to be replaced. But what we have done is, I think you've seen this, we've fixed the intersections at Wesley with all the side streets. We did Terrell a year and a half ago. We did 8 intersections about 4 or 5 months ago, and we just released 8 new intersections to be done on Wesley because of all the potholes and everything that we encountered on it. I'll be honest with you, I can't get state to do anything. So that's why we're fixing these intersections, these approaches to these side streets. We're moving fast. But I agree with you, some of these streets are in bad shape, but they require water and sewer. That's what I was showing you in my slide, the purple areas. Those are full reconstruction. We're out there right now with contractors putting in water and sewer lines on Washington Street. We've done Pickett Street. We're doing Spencer Street. O'Neill is in the final stages of design. We finished up Stanford Street ahead of schedule, so that's why the contractor's getting started on that this week. We went ahead and went to the council to get Roy Warren finished. We're concreting that whole road now, so when we do the extension of Roy Warren, it's going to be concrete, so you're going to have a full 4-lane concrete road all the way from one end to the other. So that's kind of what we've tried to do, is we've looked at a lot of these streets, we've looked at the PCIs, and we looked at the scale of economy of what we can do. Now, you got to realize, we have 181, 187 miles of road in the city. If we were to do every road in this city the way it needs to be done, we would be up in the 300 to 400 million range. We got $50 million that we have to spend in 2 years. And we're trying to tailor our program to hit the worst cases we can do that will handle the most traffic. Your collector roads, like Stonewall, Sale, those roads, they have a tremendous amount of traffic on them. But we're fixing those, and we're fixing the other ones. So I hope that answers some of your questions, that we look at this, we're looking at the utilities also. That's a big factor in a lot of our road construction. A lot of you, like Canton Street from Stonewall to Wesley. I agree, that's falling apart, but I got to replace the water and the sewer in it. So that's what we're looking at, is how we come up with this stuff. And like we show right here on this slide here, all these streets here, they've already started them, but they all have to have water and sewer done to them. It's not just simple fact of going out there and putting black asphalt down or concrete down. If you don't fix the problem underneath them, it's not going to work. You're going to be right back where we are.
Yep.
Everybody's going to be complaining, well, why didn't you fix something that lasts? And that was what I was tasked with when I took the job here, build infrastructure that lasts. And that's what we're doing. Even when we do mill and overlay, if we hit bad areas, we check the base material. If the bad areas in the base material, we fix that at the same time we're getting ready to do the mill and overlay. We check all that to make sure we're not creating a bigger problem later on. But so we're taking all that in consideration when we do these roads, what all needs to be done. Some of the roads, even though mill and overlay, we've had to do curb replacement. We had to bring curbs back up to grade, put valley gutters in to make sure the drainage works. So it's not just a simple go mill it and overlay it. We look at a lot of factors into it that comes into play in conjunction with the PCI and the traffic counts. So I hope that answers some of your questions.
That answer all your questions? How about, sir?
I think this lady here had a question. Okay.
Larry Milton, 616 Beaver Place, Greenville, 75402. On the bond streets, it's been previously stated, we went out to get a paver programmed, and all the streets were going to be driven by the paver data. At the time, yes, yes, was going to determine what streets were going to be done in the residential areas and feeders, et cetera, correct? Okay. So the 3 areas that have been done, 2 is complete, and I think 1's in work now. I don't believe we had all that data when those, or especially the cedars, started. So I'd like to know how the cedars numbers compared to, say, Holiday Hills Edition, Washington Heights, and Southern Acres Edition. How were those determined over those other areas and other districts? Secondly, I've heard the... What do you mean? What area am I talking? It's out north, it's out on the west end of Lee Street, north of...
Out in this area?
No. It's out by Carver School, west of Lee Street. I mean, it's on West Lee Street. It's ironic to me that all three additions that are done now are in the same district.
I'm gonna make this statement now. Tabor program, traffic counts, do not look at commissioner districts. That doesn't enter into any of the things that we look at. I don't look at commissioner districts. I never have. We look at the data, okay?
But I don't believe you had all that data when
We
that.
had the PCIs in. That was the first thing we had. It took a while to get the traffic data done because they have to do it certain times of the year, certain days of the year. Okay? We had the PCIs.
Okay. Well, how did they compare to these other three districts? Okay, I'll go ahead. And I've heard the term milled and overlaid. I think a logical thinking person would assume that when you're going to mill the entire width of the street. That has not been done. And I'd like to know the justification for it and the value added by not doing it. Thirdly, the streets that have been done originally didn't last 20 years. And I don't understand how an overlay without doing the subgrade work is going to get another 20 years of life out of these streets. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, anyway, I'll just do it here. All right, to address those questions, as we said from day one, this is a living document, okay? We're going to have changes, we're going to have additions, we're going to have deletions to it. As we analyze the data, as we analyze what's going on. As you know, as I showed you, the PCI of the city as a whole is 46. Yeah, there are a lot of streets that need to be done. I wish we could do every street in the city, but we can't. We're trying to do the best we can do with the money that we were allocated to do and the time frame we were allocated to do it in, okay? As far as the type of milling we're doing, we've analyzed that with our geotech engineer. We do what is known as an edge milling. We mill about 4 to 5 feet on the edges of it. We check the crown of the road. The crown of the road usually is in a lot better shape. We check all that out, and then we come back in and do a 2-inch overlay on top of all that. We will get 20 years out of these or longer. I don't know how they were built in the past. A lot of them that the subgrade wasn't done correctly. We've checked that. All the subgrades we're doing today, we have lime injection or extra flex base put in it to make sure that we do it. Mr. Ellis can tell you, he's building concrete streets now. They do lime injection on the subgrade, do the flex base, and do the concrete. So we're doing it right. We're trying to go back and correct years of neglect that wasn't done. We can't fix everything. I wish we could, but we can't. We're doing everything we can to spend this money wisely and get the most out of the dollars economically we can do. So I hope that answers your questions.
I just have one quick question. Oh, I'm sorry, Judy Rich, 4112 Johnson Street, Greenville. My first time doing this. I have to admit I cannot find Johnson Street on your map, probably because it's written over. But what I'm concerned about is the extension of Stanford Street. You've come up to Wesley, and it looks like you're doing a great job, but we need from Wesley all the way over to Moulton because of all the traffic that's on there, and because that street is greatly beaten up. My question is not how you do it, but are you going to do it this round?
Yes. Okay. Yes, ma'am, we are doing all of that street. We felt like it was easier to do it in phases than to have the whole street torn up at one time, because we're having to put water and sewer in that street also. But yes, the whole street will be done. Like I said, we started in as to phase it, to try to minimize as much inconvenience as we can to the residents. I know, that's what I said. People are going to have to bear with us. I mean, this is a full reconstruction. I mean, we are doing everything we can to make sure that the residents have access to their homes. We knock on their door, we talk to them. If they have an emergency or anything, we would do everything we can to get them in and out. If they have doctor's appointments, if you let our contractor know, we will make all availability to make sure that you can get as much done as you can.
Ralph Piney.
Good evening. My name is Ralph Pinney. I live at 1706 Wright Street. That would be north of Lee. And Councilman Freeman, I probably ought to introduce myself to you later on. Thank you for this presentation. Thank you for putting all this together. Just some comments. I kind of agree with the first speaker. I would very much like to see this information put on the website and made available. Okay. Include your studies and the statistics. Okay. I haven't lived here all that long. You can probably guess by the way I'm talking. I lived here for just about 10 months. We really like the city, but obviously, like everyone else, I'm concerned about the streets. And on Wright Street, I'd really like to see the data, because, especially with traffic, because Wright Street's pretty heavily traveled. From my experience, just living there and seeing and there is some heavy truck traffic that goes up and down that street, not just axle count. You got to consider the weight that goes across that street. And it's in pretty bad shape. And I totally agree, and I understand that you've got to go off the data and everything like that. But again, I'd like to take a look at that and maybe participate going forward as well. But just kind of as an anecdotal experience from mine, on Roy Warren Parkway, between Centerpoint and Traders, that's the back road. You go around, if you get out of Home Depot and you want to get back to, they said, okay. I see that you're paving there, full concrete, okay? That intersection of Centerpoint, I only go south from there, okay? I have never gone north, so I don't know what the condition is, okay? That section going south, I can remember that there was about only one place I thought I'd had to go around some kind of street problem, some kind of pothole or, little construction or roughness. And I can tell you that if I were to go that far from Lee Street going north on Wright Street, I'd have to dodge about 20 places at least, okay? So just from my anecdotal evidence and experience, I'm not seeing a whole lot, or I haven't heard a lot of talk about streets that are north of Lee Street. So again, I'm going to work with Kenneth Freeman, Councilman Freeman, and we can make sure our concerns are noted. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, noted, brother.
For everybody, we are planning on putting this whole presentation on our website. I got with our information officer, and we will make all this available, all this information. I think we have previously put in there our PAVA data and our ADTs have been put, I believe, been put on the website. If not, we make sure they are put on there. But we do, like I said, we look at roads. This is a living document. If things come to our attention, then we would certainly look at it. We'll take a look at Wright Street and see how it fares out, what the utilities are. Like I said, a lot of these are the water and sewer that have to be replaced, okay? we're looking at that very heavily to get those done and get those into shape. I mean, and one of the things, I'll bring this up about our sewer system, is the older parts of the city, we have a lot of leakage or infiltration into our system. That water goes to our treatment plant, and we're treating that as sewer. So if we can cut down our infiltration into our sewer systems, our distribution, our collection system, then that frees up a lot of capacity at our sewer plant to actually treat the sewage that we need to treat. So it's a blessing in both ways that we're fixing that one problem and fixing another problem. But we certainly make sure all this information is available on our website.
John Kelso.
John Kelso, 6005 Horn Drive, Greenville, 75402. I've got several questions. One of them is related to, press said something about the subcommittee, transportation subcommittee. I thought he said decisions were either made there or at the council. Now, the attorney can answer if I'm wrong, but I don't think that transportation subcommittee is allowed to make decisions. If you're doing that, ask him if that's proper. You can receive reports, you can discuss things, you can deliberate, but if you're going to make decisions, that has to be done by the full council out here at a meeting, I believe. So that's my first question. Are you guys making decisions in the subcommittee that should be in a full council meeting? That's one. Number two, talked about Dent Road, called it Dent Road Extension is out for bids. Maybe I missed it, but I never saw before the council the design to go out for bids, which is normally what you guys do. I was up here 6-8 months ago talking about making that a 4-lane road versus a 3-lane road. And in my opinion, if the state is building, and they are, on their plans to make Wesley Street 34 a 4-lane highway, why would we want to spend our money to make a 4-lane highway a quarter of a mile to the east? Seemed like when the traffic just won't support it for years and years and years. Now, that's just my opinion, but I wish each of you council members would consider that seriously, whether we really need 4 lanes there or not. I don't know what you're doing out for bids, if it's 3 or 4 or what, but that's the question. Is it out for bid for 4-lane or 3-lane? That's the second question. Carroll Road, not real familiar with it, but I don't believe it has curbs and gutters. It's in the purple. Now, you've already said all that green stuff is mill and overlay, but all the purple stuff, what is Carroll Road going to be, just a mill and an asphalt overlay? Is it going to be concrete? Is it going to be, what do you have for that, Carroll Road, since you're working on it? And then more general, all that purple stuff, how much of those, can you just give us a feel for what your intention is? Are they going to be mill and overlay after you replace the, they're purple because you're replacing the water and sewer and fixing all that. But after you've done with that, then what are you going to do with all those purple ones? Are they all going to be just asphalt overlay or concrete, or what's your intention? Because I think even some of those north of Park Street that you've got, if you go all the way down to the east, 7th Street, I don't think those are curbed. I think that's just asphalt bar ditch stuff. A lot of them are. So what, in general, what's your intention there? Third question. Fourth question, all those green streets that you've done already, mill and overlay, do you have an idea what the cost per mile is on those? Could you tell us that? And the reason I ask that is I love all this plan, but let's, we got $50 million and then that's all we've got. Let's just pretend you haven't talked about cost. So, do you really think you can do all this for the $50 million? If so, fine, just say, yes, we know we can, and I'll sit down, but let's just pretend you can't do everything you showed there for $50 million. If that's true, what is your plan for, which ones of those purples do you think are you going to do all the concrete ones first, like Stanford, or are you going to do all the the asphalt first and then go to the concrete ones because they're more expensive? I mean, what's your philosophy for which ones are you going to attack and how are you going to go about doing that? Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay. We did go for council, entered into a contract with a consulting firm to design Dent Road, Roy Warren Extension as a 4-lane road. Okay? Traffic analysis, traffic projections, thoroughfare plan from Hunt County that we all participate in backs this data up for it to be a 4-lane road. Okay? As far as what we're doing, most of the roads will be concrete. That's what we're trying to get to. The plan we came up with these roads, we feel confident we can get it done within the 50 million. If not, we'll be darn close to it. Some of the streets will be asphalt. Some of the residential areas that we're redoing will be asphalt, but there'll be new drainage put in. Make sure we get the drainage taken into account for. So we will take care of the drainage areas, water and sewer, and like Stanford Street's going to be a concrete street. Most of the streets we're doing downtown will be concrete streets with the curbs so we can control the drainage and that way, and that. Like I said, everything we're doing, we're going to put on the website so everybody will have full access to it. All I can give you is the results from the paver program. I can't put the program itself on the website because that's proprietary. We actually purchased that program as a municipality. So I think if I haven't answered your questions, if you can, Carroll Street will be a full rebuild. That's what, concrete. That's what we're out there doing now. So that, I mean, the contractor started, I think about 2 weeks ago, potholing it and checking for things, underground utilities and stuff, but we put in, I think, a 12 or 14-inch water main down Carroll to tie to both ends to it. So that was done. We're fixing the drainage on it, and the sewer and all is out there. So Carroll Street is being done right now. As far as a game plan on what goes first, we pretty much we had all our consultants that were agreed to. We brought it to council. Council approved the contracts for the design. Council approved all the construction contracts. We brought all that to full council. We brought the contract for Dent Road extension because that is a separate bond issue. That was brought before council and approved for the consultant to do that work. Everything we have done, when we take it to Transportation Committee, I get a recommendation to take it forward to council. We have transportation meeting, then I take it to the next council level. But I think in everything we have done, we have tried to be as transparent as we can. I'll be honest, we have nothing to hide. I'll talk to you anytime you want to. My door's open. I'll be glad to sit down and discuss this stuff with you and talk about our philosophy and what we're trying to do. So I think, hopefully I've answered your questions. Yes. The vast majority of them will be concrete. Some of the residential areas maybe still be asphalt. We're analyzing that as we go, but we based our cost estimates and our projections on concrete streets. That is our city standard. Our city standard are concrete streets because we know they last. Some of those may be asphalt. I'm not going to tell you all, but the vast majority of them will be concrete streets.
Paul Park?
Actually, can I pause for just a second? There was one more question that John asked that I would like to hear the answer to. And his question was, how do you go about deciding, he was asking about concrete and asphalt, but also how do you decide which ones you're doing first? you know, you're going to go ahead and do all the concrete ones first? You go ahead and do the overlay and mill ones first? You know, how do you approach those?
What we try to do is work with the contractor when they're working in areas that we can do either concrete or asphalt in there. We look at the traffic on it. We looked at detour routes. We know Stanford needs to be done, and so we're doing that. We look at a lot of factors when we do these. It's not just we throw a, you know, dart on the wall and say, we're going to do that one next. We look at, okay, if we do this, what's the impact to the residents? Where's the detour? What can we do to get this? That's why we did Stanford in phases. We can still manage the traffic, manage the detours, and get the streets done in phases. I mean, I would love to, honestly, from a construction standpoint, I'd love to close Stanford off and do it from one end to the other, but that's not realistic to do it. So we look into those considerations of what is the detour routes, where the traffic's trying to go, and how we can best do the construction to minimize the impact to the residents.
Betty, two. Mhm. Betty Franklin?
Betty Franklin, 1811 King Street here in the city. I'll make my question really short. You touched on it just a few minutes ago when you talked about the water and the sewage and the old cast iron pipes and stuff. I live in a neighborhood where we have that, where you get ready to replace the line. It's crumbled up in your hand. There's no line. There's issues with raw sewage. I'd just like to know what are some plans, because I know the homes are older in that neighborhood, and we are growing, and we haven't seen a lot of new houses coming in. But still, there's older houses, and there is an issue with that problem. So how are you looking at that?
Some of the areas in town, a lot of it is the Project Restore. A lot of the old lots are being developed on. We still have our utility crew that we're still replacing water and sewer lines that are not in the bond issue. We do that constantly. We finished a couple of them here just recently, but we're looking at areas like that where we have to go in and replace the water and sewer lines. So we're doing that. May not necessarily be in the bond issue, but we're still looking at replacing water and sewer lines as we have been doing for years. We have a lot of clay pipe. We have a lot of cast iron pipe. We have a lot of asbestos cement pipe in the ground. So we're steadily trying to replace those a block at a time, a street at a time, that we can do it. So we are looking at all those issues as we can.
Okay.
Gabe Medina, 601 Deere Drive. I got to speak up. Can you guys hear me all right? Okay. Wow. That's a lot of information to digest, and I just wanted to echo that it's amazing to have press on board that has all this information that he presented to you guys, presented to the citizens. Sincerely keep this guy around. Do everything possible, because as he said earlier, there's a lot of stuff that has been gone unnoticed, unchecked, unregulated for these streets for so long. The simple fact that he's bringing it up in a manner that's not just, let's just go fix a few streets, or let's throw $50 million over at this intersection because a lot more people are complaining about it. He's taking a lot of flack because, yeah, we drive these streets every day and we notice them. Press does too. And sometimes he's got to put those blinders on to say, this is the right thing to do, and this is how we can be great stewards of the money that we've been given in order to move forward. I don't have any particular streets to ask any questions about, but keep this guy around. Press, thank you very much.
That's all the cards. I thought I called you. Oh. Paul Park, please.
Paul Park, 207 Patterson Drive in Greenville. I don't have any questions. I'm going to let press off the hook on that. I just have some observations that I would like to state. To go back on the concrete versus asphalt and embellish on that a little bit, everybody thinks concrete's the way to go. It's not always the best way to go. You need to evaluate what the street traffic is, the loads, and what goes on it. Concrete's a rigid material. The base underneath it tries to move, it breaks. Asphalt, especially what's now called a super pave asphalt, is a flexible material that will move with the substrate. It doesn't tend to break and crumble up the way the others do. So much for engineering class. I think some misconceptions with this is what's happened out of this bond. People, we passed, what, a $17 million bond to do Sale and Stonewall, $7.5 million for Roy Warren Parkway, $2 million a year out of the regular budget for 6 years is $12 million. And people were led to believe, or naively believed, that throw another $50 million on top of this would fix all the streets in town. That ain't gonna work. As I said, I believe you were naive if you believe that. I didn't say you claimed that. I'm talking the public, the people that voted, Mayor. Because that's what they were led to believe. Regardless of what was published, listen to the rhetoric, that's what they were led to believe. I believe you said it was $750,000 a mile to resurface the street. National average, according to the Department of Transportation and Highway Engineers, is $375,000 a mile, using the best materials available. You're talking twice. What people were not presented with is all of the utility repairs that are going with it. And I agree 100%. It makes no sense to redo the street and not fix the utilities. But people are looking at this as they passed a $50 million bond for streets, and they're paying for a lot of utility repairs. You need to get to the public, all of you, the people that you represent, you need to go talk to them and explain to them what's happening here. That's all there is to it. There was a statement made that if this passed, it needed to be as transparent as a Windex factory. Didn't happen. Thank you. I realize that a lot of you don't want to hear that. Go out and talk to your constituents. That's what you're going to hear. Thank you.
Paul, I'd like to address one issue, and I've had this happen over my career. The numbers you get from DOT and federal highway are interstate-type roads, major collector roads. I know. What? I've read those over the years. A lot of it for the small roads that we do, the prices increase, and like you said, it does cover utilities. Now, I do not believe, and I've looked into this, I don't believe the state of Texas yet is using super pave. I've used a heck of it in Florida, but Texas has not switched to super pave yet. We're still using Marshall mixes. I agree with you. Concrete is not the catch-all, the end-all, the magic wand. Some streets need to be asphalt. But as far as, yes, concrete is a rigid pavement, okay? But we look at the sub-base. We look at flex base to put in there to help the concrete move when it needs to. That's why we put rebar in it, so it will move some. We're doing everything we can to make sure we're building the correct roads. We have geotech engineers that advise us concrete, the thickness of the concrete, the size of the rebar, the spacing of the rebar, the type of concrete mix we use. All that is vetted out before we do the first thing. That was one of the things I said. I'm not doing anything till we have a geotechnical engineer tell us what's in the subgrade, what's beneath us, what are we getting into. We run into sulfides. Lime doesn't do anything for the sulfides. We have to pull that area out and put flex base in there. The rest of the area, the clays, we can stabilize with lime injection. And we do that, a good bit of our streets are lime injected. Sale Street, you can see the lime all over the equipment when they finish doing the lime injections. So I believe we're doing everything we can. We never said that we could do every road in the city. I've said that over and over, and I've said this to our council and everybody else. If we don't fix the utilities, if we don't fix what's underneath it, it doesn't do a bit of good to go put blacktop or concrete down on the road. So I agree with you on those, so.
I agree. Like remodeling a house. Starting to maintain things.
Exactly.
This estimating $36,000.
Okay.
Urban road with a 4-foot pipeline. Published.
Right.
Coincidentally, about the time.
We do.
Understand what you're saying, Russ. I agree.
Yeah.
Structural problem.
Yes.
There is no infrastructure to plant.
No.
That's a farce.
That is true. Okay. Good. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yes, my name is Kenneth Freeman. I'm on the city council member. I've been staying in Greenville most of my life. And some of the stuff that we are doing now should have been done 30 or 40 years ago. But we just now doing it. I don't know who made the mistake that wasn't concerned about our streets, about the growth of Greenville, or holding it back, or whatsoever. But we should have been doing this 30 or 40 years ago. Get the pipes, water pipes, sewer lines out of the streets a little at a time until we get them all out. Because when I worked for the city, nobody ever thought about this, of moving water lines or sewer lines out of the middle of the streets so we can have a better street. Nobody didn't even think about that 30 or 40 years ago. And when I worked for the city, the same sewer line and water line was back, is still under the ground right now. That they should have been doing 30 or 40 years ago. But they wait, and I thank the Lord that we are doing something now to try to change that up. But it's going to take time for us to get this done. It's not going to take overnight for us to do it. And we can't please everybody, no matter what we do. We can't please everybody. But we are trying to make a difference in getting this stuff done now. And if we can get people to work with us and be patient, I believe we can get it done. But we can't get it done all at one time. $50 million is not going to do all our streets. It's just that simple. I don't care what you put underneath them, what kind of construction, what kind of material, it's not going to do it. It's going to take time for us to get this done together. And it's going to take y'all to be patient with us so we can get it done. But I lived here all my life, and my street that I lived on was always bad, never have been done right. But I'm still having faith and trust that we can get it done. I even might not be on the city council when they get it all done, but I'm still hoping and praying that it get done along the way. So, hey, we're just going to have to work together, be patient, and get this done together, and I think we can get it done. And I thank Press for trying what he's doing, because this wasn't done 30 or 40 years ago. Measuring the streets, finding out which one is worse and which one is not. That wasn't done 30 or 40 years ago. Nobody cared. But people care now. So let's go forward what we can do and try to make a difference, and then we can work from there and go on. I appreciate it and thank y'all for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Freeman. I couldn't agree with you more. That was a great statement. And thank you, Press, for your presentation.
Thank you.
If it's quick.
Absolutely. They take cores every day. And every one of them is broke above specifications.
Okay, Christian, did you have a question? You don't have a question. Anyone else on the council have a question?
I just had a comment.
Okay.
In the maps that you supply, is it possible in the future to notate text dot roads? So that might help confusion that some citizens may have of asking why some roads are done, some roads are not.
Right.
Like they'll say mill and overlay
and
text dot roads all the time.
Just to clarify, we did not do traffic counts on the text dot roads.
Yeah, correct.
There's nothing we can do with them. We are doing, like I said, the Wesley intersections, just to help our residents because of all the traffic that comes off of Wesley.
Yeah.
Onto those. So, yeah, we can identify those.
Yeah,
But
just
I
in
think
the-
Tim's point is they get confused. There's confusion on Facebook, which roads we support and which roads TxDOT. That's your point.
So, yeah, like in the presentation you had, you showed the maps, and if there's a way to notate, just
We can
make
certainly
a
do
special
that.
color for that, just to help confusion that the citizens.
It is confusing, believe me. It took me a while to learn them too, so. Any other questions, any other information for the council?
Council, thank you all very much for your questions tonight. I hope we've answered your questions, and we'll continue to update you as we go. We're going to take a 5-minute break before we start the regular session, so.
The recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Need a part for the right price? Look for that red and blue sign. Henley Auto Supply at 1510 Stonewall. Over 800,000 CarQuest parts to choose from. Domestic, European, and Asian parts. Henley Auto Supply at 903-455-1969. 455-1969. Henley Auto Supply has the right part to keep your vehicle running. And backed by the best hometown service. Henley Auto Supply. Great people, great products, great prices. Henley Auto Supply and CarQuest.
recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to Go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to Go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
It's on. Can we please get seated? We'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you. If you will. So I'll call this regular session to order. It's a little after 6 o'clock. Let the record reflect it's 6:08. And I'll ask Steve Methan to please come up with the invocation. Please stand.
Let's pray. Father God, we come to you tonight. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day that we've had today. Father, I pray for those that are maybe out or away because of COVID, Father, and I pray for our nation as we still struggle on with this pandemic, God. We ask that you'd help us to get back to some type of normalcy. God, as council makes decisions on the issues that concern citizens tonight, we pray that those would be the decisions that need to be made for our city. And Father, I ask that you'd be with staff and the council as this city is growing, and we need you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. There are no presentations tonight. Please note there are placeholders on the agenda for citizens to be heard as well as public testimony. Citizens to be heard on items that are not that are scheduled for public hearing or not on the agenda. And public testimony will start tonight with item 7A on the agenda. Are there citizens to be heard?
Yes, Larry Ellis.
Larry Ellis, 8580 Cedar Creek Lane, Greenville, Texas. 82% of the voters approved the $50 million street bond. That's a big number. And that means that people in our city want to get things done. And I just think of that moment was a real come-together moment for our city. We explained to everybody what was going to happen. And to the reason that we did the $50 million bond, and we did it now instead of doing it 20, 30 years ago, it's interest rates. That was the key factor. Interest rates had never been at this low level. We could go borrow money and debt service it hardly for anything. And that's what drove it. And so some people on this council here, they recognized that, and that got it going. And then we made the argument to the citizens of the city. We explained it to them. We said, hey, we're spending $2 million, we're getting nothing. I mean, we're not getting ahead of this curve. This curve's getting worse and worse. So we said, why don't we do this? Let's go borrow this money. We'll debt service it with the money that we were paying. And this gives us that big, that big thing that we can do. We can do it. This is big. And to answer the question about, well, is the 50 going to work? Let me tell you what will make the 50 work. The 50 will work if we start explaining to our citizens what we're doing with the street bond. There's 6 of you in here. You represent all these different areas of the city. Let's make a list and let's say, okay, here's Terry's area. This is the next 10 things that's going to happen there. Here's Al's. Here's 10 things. Give us a list from our city, from our street department, and let's show the people what's going on in these different areas of the city. Look, building streets is not going to Mars, okay? I know. I've written $1 million checks, okay? I think I'm the only one in this room who's ever written $1 million check for streets. So the deal is, it's engineering, it's the utilities, water, sewer, storm sewer, and it's paving. Yes, there's testing, because you're trying to figure out your soil, what you got going on there. There's testing that makes sure that all these pipes are all connected correctly with video cams and all kinds of stuff. And then there's paving, and you better believe it. There's a testing company out there, and every day that concrete is getting poured, they're testing it every day. That's expensive, but that's okay. That's part of what we do, okay? And so if you guys will get a list and let the people know in these 6 different areas that you represent, this is coming, this is what we're going to see, then people can look at it and then go, okay, that makes sense. And guess what? We could stay here till midnight saying, we need to fix that street, we need to fix that street. That can go on forever, okay? So what we have to do, we're trusting you, the city council, that you have oversight of our street department, okay? And so the other thing is, look, we had the bond on sale and on Stonewood, and, you know, then excuse me, not Stonewood, that's my street. That's my thing. So on Stonewall, and then we have Dent Road, and now we have the big bond. But I don't see where all the new people came from. I don't see where all these contractors came from. Let's step it up. I don't think you guys are always saving money little ways. I think that costs us money in big ways. So why don't y'all get this thing going? Let's start seeing some dirt flying. Here's the first thing that you see in this deal, stakes. If I drove around Greenville the other day, I just was curious and I wanted to see for myself. You're going to see stakes. When things are starting to happen, there are stakes out there where people are marking things so you know the project's coming. Let's let the citizens know that, hey, you live in this one, you live in this one, you live in this one. This is what's coming. Here's 10 things that are happening in your area. So you know what's coming in yours. You can talk to your constituents, the people, you know, that elected you. You can talk to and say, this is it. We know what's going on. I just spent $220,000 on property taxes in this city. So I want you to be efficient, okay? I want you to spend my money wisely. That's what I expect, okay, from you guys, okay? Now,
Mr.
I know
Ellis,
Mayor
Mr. Ellis,
Ransom.
Thank you. I'm sorry I forgot to start the timer, but your time's up.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Are there other citizens to be heard?
James Evans, 6410 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. At last night's P&Z meeting, there were a couple of actions taken of which this council needs to be aware and may require further review. First, there were requested corrections for the October P&Z minutes to ensure that votes were recorded as required by state statute 551.021, record of open meeting, which states, minutes or records of open meetings are required. A governmental body shall prepare and keep minutes or make a recording of each open meeting of the body. The minutes must state the subject of each deliberation and indicate each vote, order, decision, or other action taken. The October minutes for P&Z did not reflect each vote cast on an item of importance. Also, it was noted on 2 items of last night's agenda, the presiding officer made motions in direct conflict with City Ordinance, Section 2.04.037, Rules of Procedure, which states, a motion may be made by any member of such commission other than the presiding officer thereof. Council should have staff review the minutes and return those items back to the full P&Z for proper action, as no member of the commission would want to willingly violate city ordinance. Until these corrections are made, the P&Z minutes of last night's meeting should not be placed on council's agenda. In addition, it would be beneficial to provide each of the P&Z members a copy of city ordinance as stated in Division 2, Section 2.04 of city ordinance. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Are there other citizens to be heard?
Wayne Morris.
Trying to read my own handwriting. I had some spinal injections earlier today, so I had to do
Could you
these
lower that
myself.
mic a little bit,
Yes,
Wayne?
sir. Wayne Morris, 5600 Vale Street, Greenville, 75402. I get emotional at times, but basically, I'm a numbers and fact-driven guy. This is why I found it disheartening to read a particular comment on Facebook last week and basically replies, quite a number of replies, accusing the Greenville Animal Control Facility of massive genocide.
I don't think we can hear you, Mr.
Okay.
Morris.
Let me try again. Like, this is a Facebook post that was posted last week, had some traction, basically by some people posting it and replying, basically accusing Greenville's animal control shelter of mass genocide of animals brought in. Thanks to Summer staff, it is easy to refute, as the 2021 data is easy to find on the city's website. And I'd just like to run it through briefly for those people not in attendance who might be watching. 2021, animals captured, 943, brought in by owner, 1,672. That totals out to 2,615. Animals reclaimed, 185. Animals adopted, 1,073. That brings that down to 1,357. Animals transferred, 414, makes it 943. Animals euthanized, 428. Do the math. That's 55% of the remaining animals that were not euthanized. Considering the staff, the older facility, their improvements are being made, they're doing miracles with the budget, absolute miracles. They're doing jobs that I know myself I couldn't do. I know Mayor Ransom is very invested in this, as well as his spouse. She's made comments before. She has committee meetings, invites the public. The people making accusations and complaining, they don't show up. I also posted in my rebuttal, and I'm going to try and speed this up. You know, I think everybody would like a no-kill shelter, but how many taxpayers are willing to pay increased property taxes? Didn't get one reply. I said, how many people would be willing to pay an annual, say, $10 registration fee with 75%, 100% going to increase funding for the shelter? No replies. I think the animal control people are doing an excellent job. I salute Mrs. Ransom for her efforts and other people in the community. And I wish those that sound off use the data available on the city website and get their facts straight. Once again, thanks to Summer and her staff.
Thank you, Mr. Morris, and I think essentially for pointing out a lot of that data you had was also in the Now report. You pulled that from the Now report on the City Now report, and so thank you for your comments. Are there other citizens to be heard?
That's the last card I had.
None?
I have no more cards.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move to 6A, consideration and action on ordinance authorizing a change in zoning from general retail to single family 2 on property at 4012 Stonewall Street. Steve.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can we get that next one? This is for an older home that is located on Stonewall. If you look at your map, division would be to your south there. It abuts a parking lot. That parking lot is used for the medical office. It is there, but the house is marked up there. It's an older historical home. They're requesting zoning on this property. Currently, it's zoned general retail. The city's zoning ordinance currently, if you have a residential home built in a commercial general retail type zoning, if it becomes dilapidated or destroyed over 50%, you're not allowed to rebuild that. This house has been sold. It's a very beautiful home. So it's being bought, and the bank is wanting to make sure the house can be rebuilt. We've done this a few times in the past. So they're requesting to change this to single family 2. The houses across the street are single family 2, which makes it contiguous. Makes perfect sense to me. The house is very old. They want to keep it. The bank's not going to loan to buy it unless you can build it back, and I totally understand that. So it's a very simple request. I sent out 10 letters on property owners adjacent to it. I only got one call back, and their concern was that they get to keep their general retail zoning, which they do. It only concerns this one lot, so they didn't really care. And that's the only call I had, either for or against. I didn't have it either way, really. So makes perfect sense. Seems like the right thing to do, and I'd recommend that. I took it to P&Z last night, and they unanimously motioned to approve that.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Methvin?
Yeah. Steve, do we know how it got to general retail in the first place?
Well, there's a lot of that in this town, a whole lot of it. I'd be scared to say how much residential property there is in commercial, general retail, light industrial zoning. A lot in the north on the south side of Lee Street. A lot of those houses back in there are sitting in general retail, commercial, light industrial. Been there for years, and I'm not talking about 4 or 5 houses. I'm talking about many, many houses. Actually, Project Restore, we've allowed them to build houses in those areas now. So we're continuing on, and that's where the growth is. That's where it's going. The properties were just zoned back in the 60s when they did zoning in Greenville. That's where the vision of the city was then. You know, downtown was hot and heavy, so you were keeping your main drags, you know, general retail and commercial, and that's what you've seen here. Mm-hmm. And just for your information, so you know, once we get the comprehensive land use plan, which we're working on, we're getting there, Littoral will begin another project, which will be to rewrite the whole zoning ordinance. It is very, very outdated. We need to add categories to it. And then I have a vision, and I hope we can get there. I would like to, and it's going to take some time and some effort, to actually rezone the whole city to where it makes sense. I mean, we've got blocks, and there's nothing general. I want the land use plan in place before we do that. So we got a couple of big projects, and those aren't going to be 6-month projects. They're going to take a year or two to get done. But to get us where we really need to be, I think we need to do that. And it will stop this kind of thing right here too.
Any more questions for Steve? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak for or against this ordinance? Or not? Don't see anybody. What's the pleasure of the council regarding
Move to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Is there a second? Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Moving on to 7A, consideration and an action on an ordinance ordering and a general election for the purposes of electing council members in place 1 and place 2 for the city. Excuse me. I guess
This is our normal
this is a
annual
normal
election
thing.
for
I don't
council
know that
members.
anybody needs to make a presentation on this, right? It's pretty obvious. So I'll open this up for public testimony. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor or opposition to having an election? There being nobody, what is the pleasure of the council? Okay, is there a second? Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 7B, consideration and an action on an ordinance authorizing H&H electrical contractors to install electrical work on the water treatment plant's chemical room. Press.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's been a long night already. This is, the good news is our water treatment plant got re-rated by TCEQ from 11 million gallons a day to 14. In order to do that, we had to do some more chemical feed to the water system. In order to do that, I had to increase my electrical capability to that portion of the plant. So that's what this is to provide additional electrical conduits and electrical wire to that end of the plant, be able to add the chemical feed to the water plant.
Okay. Any questions, press? Okay, if not, I'll Is there anyone who would like to, I'll open the public testimony. Is there anyone like to speak for or against this item 7B? There being no one, what is the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
Motion and a second, please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 7C, consideration and action on an ordinance rescinding Ordinance 21059 and authorizing Dedicated Controls LLC to increase the feed rate of the chlorination system at the water treatment plant. Press?
Yes, sir, this is the same thing that, and for the re-rating, we had to increase our chlorination rate. We had some confusion between the contractors. One of them that bid it originally could not supply the insurance, so we had to go to another contractor. So what this is, this increases our chemical feed for the chlorination, the whole chlorination system, to be able to meet our 14 MGD.
Okay. Any questions for press regarding this item? Is there any, I'll open the public testimony. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposed to item 7C? There being no one, what is the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve.
I second.
Motion and a second. Please vote. And it appears to have passed unanimously. Item 7D, consideration and an action on an ordinance authorizing H&H Electrical Contractors to provide electrical work for the Lake Tawakoni raw water intake pumps, number 3 and number 4. Press.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, when we got into the Tawakoni, originally Tawakoni had 4 pumps. We were down to 1 pump. What we found out was when they built the little building down there to put the motor controls in it, they only put 2 motor controls in. And they took out the motor controls for the other 2 pumps when we had the big drought, and they put in those temporary pumps down into the lake to pump more water. They rearranged the motor control room. So what we're having to do now is add 2 motor control units to add to 2 pumps we need to pump the water we will need to get to our 14 MGD. So this is what this is basically reworking our whole electrical system in our motor control room down at Tawakoni Pump Station.
These are vertical pumps?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any questions from press?
No, knowing we just rebuilt the vertical pumps, we need to go back in and put in upgraded or new electrical feeds to them.
That's what we have found out, unfortunately. We found out some of the wiring is bad. We had our pumps rebuilt. 3 pumps rebuilt. We ordered a 4th pump, which council approved. We had the motors rewound, rebuilt. Those were working good. Then we found out, we kept saying, the pumps were kind of popping and hissing. What in the world's going on? And you'll see that in the next item. We've had an electrical company come in, and they said our motor controls are pretty well shot. Our electrical lines are shot. I mean, Tawakoni is the classic out of sight, out of mind. And I don't know how many of you have actually been down to Tawakoni and seen it. But still, that's what this is about, trying to get our electrical system set up to standards, up to code for that pump station.
Any other questions for press? Any other questions? Okay. Open public testimony on this item 7D. Anyone like to speak in favor or opposed to this item? There being nobody, what is the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
Motion to second, please vote. Okay, moving right along to 7E, consideration and action on the ordinance authorizing professional services with absolute testing services for testing and engineering at the Greenville Water Transfer Station at Lake Tawakoni. Press.
Yes, sir. This is a continuation of what we're doing, having to have all these motor controls tested, the wiring tested, all the connections tested. So this is an integral part of what we're trying to do to get that pump station up to code and working properly.
Okay, are there any questions for press regarding this issue? Okay. Not, I will open public testimony. Anyone like to speak for or against, in favor or against this item? There being nobody, what is the pleasure of the council?
Just a quick question.
Okay.
Could H&H not do that in conjunction with their work?
This was a different company that we had to look at it, and they made the recommendations. That's how we got the bids from H&H. Based on, this is for them to finish up what they started.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we, okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve?
Motion second, please vote. Okay. It passes unanimously. Item 7F, consideration action on ordinance authorizing the purchase of a new John Deere motor grader in the amount of $246,000. Press?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, I think y'all remember a few months back, our motor grader, we had it parked out on the road, and somebody thought it would be a neat thing to set it on fire. So it burned to the ground. And it was not much left of it. So with our insurance settlement and what we're doing, we need to order another grader. And we got this off the buy board, the 248. Chris McCallum and I both look at them, and we felt this was a good purchase for us to make. We do have several miles of dirt roads we still have to maintain. So this is what we're doing. We're going back and replacing equipment that was vandalized.
Okay. Any questions for press regarding this?
I have a couple of questions about that, actually. So you said insurance is covering this?
Yes, not all of it. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think the last word I got was around 160,000 was what we were getting from insurance.
Okay, so because of the vandalism, we'll be out 80,000 or so?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then my second question is, are the police investigating?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Police and fire have both done investigative reports on it. I don't think those reports are released yet, but they are working. Sherry Wells, HR, and all working very closely with the insurance company and PD and fire on getting our insurance claim.
I assume the insurance company requires a police investigation?
Yes, they do.
Yes, okay. That's all.
Okay. Any other questions for press regarding this? Okay, I'll open for public testimony. Anyone would like to speak in favor or opposed to this item 7F? If not, I'll close public testimony. What is the pleasure of the council?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a motion? 2 seconds. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 7G.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Press.
Thank you for your work tonight. GP, consideration action on an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a fleet of generators, 5 generators and 1 mobile unit generator in the amount of $420,000. GP.
Yep. Yeah, this would be for the purchase from WPI for 6 generators total. 5 of them would be housed at specific locations: Animal Control, City Hall, Civic Center, Police, Reese Davis, and then 1 mobile unit. These would be able to power the operations of all those facilities for if we ever experience any difficulties, such as the winter storm from similar to last February, and it would keep all of these locations operational. There would also be some community benefit on top of keeping these locations operational, and that would be warming centers for citizens of Greenville. My understanding is there weren't really any warming centers for citizens who lost power to come to in that event last winter, as well as also it would provide kind of a backup location too for the hospital for if they needed a warm place to house some of their beds for if they were to lose power as well. That purchase total is $420,000, $471, and this would be funded through some of that COVID money that we received, that $3.5 roughly million, and that's where the funding would come from.
Okay. Are there any questions? If not, I'll open this up for public testimony. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposed to this item? Not being anybody, I'll close the public testimony. Is there a motion from the council?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I know we do have some generators in place. Off the top of my head, Summer, do you know if they're...
At our critical locations, as far as the wastewater treatment plant, when they rebuilt that in 2013, they put one out there, and that one's in great shape. Water treatment plant has a very old generator. That one will be coming to you in the next couple council meetings to replace that one, just because the number of hours and the issues that we had with that during Winter Storm Uri as well. And then basically we have one at the municipal and at PD. They don't run the full operations of either one of those buildings because they are outdated. And so that's what the difference when these would be, and they're a little bit more expensive to be able to actually run those buildings. PD houses all of our IT infrastructure, as well as the municipal building does as well. So those critical pieces of the server rooms and keeping those cool or warm, either way, those are the pieces that can do it now, but they're just so outdated. We have maintenance agreements on them, so they do their job when they need to, but this would just further solidify all of that infrastructure. And like he said, the big piece was, and not just for warming stations, but in the summertime as well. If we, I think it was a couple years ago, they threatened for the rolling brownouts or whatever they called them in the wintertime. So it'd be a cooling station as well. During the straight line winds that we had several people for weeks without, and that would be a cooling station and charging stations for phones and those kind of things. So it's not just for winter storm, it's for kind of every situation. And the really big one is that mobile unit. We'd be able to use that one at the pump stations, which is the main reason that we went to a boil water notice when February came around. It's because we weren't able to keep electricity at those pump stations. This would be able to go to the pump station, take care of what needs to go, and then Press and his team could take it to each pump station that we needed to, and it'd be vital for that. So that's kind of why we kind of adjusted that. So we do have some generators, just not adequate for emergencies.
So would these 5 fixed generators be in addition to the ones remaining where they are, or are they replacements?
Replacements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we own the ones that are being replaced, or were those leased with a maintenance agreement?
No, we own those. They would just come and maintain them every year.
Why not keep them and have both?
You know how old they are.
No, I don't.
They're pretty old.
Okay.
I mean, we could keep them for backups, no doubt. And we could also keep them for other facilities as well. That's a problem that we have at the water treatment plant now. That's an old one that was, I think, was it from the wastewater treatment plant when they rebuilt that? Yeah.
It's got 88,000 hours on it. It doesn't power the whole plant, and it does not have the automatic switching gear. You have to manually switch it, so I have to have juice out there to switch it. And in the storm, with the power going in and out, every time the power went off and came back on, they had to manually switch it off and on to try to get the generator running. And we only have a 300-gallon diesel tank on it, so we ran out of diesel on it. So it needs to be replaced.
Okay.
And he talked about the fuel as well. We're also working with our fleet manager to ensure that we do have enough fuel and enough storage capacity to run all those generators. We didn't have an issue at the wastewater treatment plant or the water treatment plant because luckily we have a very good fuel supplier. But if we're going to have these additional bigger generators that we don't have now, then obviously we need more fuel capacity. So we're planning on that right now too. We've been working with GP and our fleet maintenance manager.
And most of the bigger new
that.
generators come with 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 gallon diesel tanks with them. So you do have ample running time built into the generator.
Right, into those big ones, talking about the water and wastewater, but these smaller ones not necessarily have storage, so we're planning on that as well. So we're trying to hit it from all aspects.
Okay.
I just think these are much-needed upgrades, and I appreciate being able to use the ARPA funds to pay for these.
Well,
this is a good use of that money. Thank you.
Yeah, in addition to
I
that.
just want to say that I thought that was a very, very impressive answer and very thorough and comprehensive, and I was very impressed by that. Thank you. Very, very impressed. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, one other note I had, Al had mentioned the ARPA funds. There's also an ERCOT program that we can sign up for once we have these generators in place. So let's say during some of the hotter summer months, whenever ERCOT's strained, we can take some of our buildings offline, run them on the generators, and then they'll pay us a fixed amount monthly. And that's not just, that's a program we'd be signed up for, so we would get revenue monthly regardless of whether we have to ever bring any buildings offline or not. So that'll also offset the cost in the future.
Yeah, we have some generators that are on that program currently, and so does Juice as well. Juice is the one that introduced us to that program, so it does kind of help offset a small portion of the cost, but any bit helps. So, yeah.
Okay. I think I had open public testimony for this. It was several minutes ago, but I assume there's No one in the audience, based on what you just heard, that would like to speak in favor or opposed to this item? And since there is none, I'll open this up for motion by the city council.
Move to approve?
I second.
Motion second. Please vote. And that passes item 7G passes unanimously. So resolution 8A, setting a date for public hearing for the purpose of establishing the city's capital improvements project list and land use assumptions. Steve, are you going to address this tonight? Okay. Just setting a date, so.
Yeah, all this is just, it's setting the first public hearing for the impact fees.
Right.
There's a notice process we have to go through, so you have to set that date so that we can do that, so. And they want to set it for March the 8th is what we're looking at, so.
Okay.
That's when we'll really get started on you guys will start hearing the impact fee stuff, and we'll try to get that completed somewhere, I believe in April.
April 12th.
April 12th, so. We're moving
Okay.
along. But
anyone-
that's all it is setting that date.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Anyone like to speak in favor or opposed to this item? Okay, your motion from the council? Motion.
Second.
Second. Please vote. Left side of the table finally made a motion in a second. Okay, and it passes unanimously. I'd like to ask the city secretary to read the consent calendar, please.
City council meetings from January 11th, meeting minutes from January 11th, resolution approving tax resale properties at 3210 Houston and one on Stonewall Street, ordinance authorizing the purchase of a 60-ton straight cooling roof unit in the amount of $122,000 through Buy Board Co-op.
Okay, are there any questions from the council on any of these items on the consent calendar? If there are no questions, I'll open for public testimony. Are there anyone like to speak in favor or opposed to any of these 4 items? There being no one, what is the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion?
I'll second.
Second? Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 10, November unaudited financials.
All right, thank you, Carol. I'll review our monthly financial report for November. We'll be reviewing November today. The next city council meeting we'll be doing December, and then we'll finally be caught up and back on schedule and reviewing January on the last meeting in February. So I'll start by reviewing our general fund revenues and expenditures. Right now, our revenues are at about 3.7 million, or 14% of expected collections, and our expenditures are at 4.9 million, or 16% of budgeted expectations. I'll review the revenues first. We're still doing really well on sales tax, and that's leading with 1.7 million, making up about 46% of that number. Our property taxes are a little behind compared to last October and November, but looking ahead, we catch up for that in December. So that's why that's a little low historically, making up 18% at 697,000. That other bucket is 1.2 million at 34%. And just as a reminder of what kind of that other bucket is, that includes different things such as licenses and permitting fees, municipal court fines, kind of other cost allocation and sales and income categories. Reviewing our expenses, our number one category is public safety at 2.6 million. Our non-departmental funding in that second one, I'm probably going to break this chart out in the future. That's showing as 18% at 906,000, but really That kind of includes non-departmental as well as cost allocation and transfers. I'm going to break those up separately moving forward. And then closely behind those are culture and recreation at $541,000 or 11%. Reviewing the sales tax year to date through November, our collections are up $327,000 or 22% compared to fiscal year to date November 2021. So right now, our year-to-date actual sales taxes are at $1.6 million, so that leaves $7.4 million to collect to meet budget, and then this is the chart that shows that year over year. Here's our sales tax versus comparison cities. Our city portion of current period collections were $887,000 remitted for November, which is an increase of 21% compared to November of 2020. Again, as a reminder, these are taxes that were collected by businesses in September, reported in October to the state, and then received by the city in November. And we're doing really well on those as well compared to last year, as well as all of our neighboring or comparison cities. This kind of charts that out, or not that out, but this chart shows the net payment received by the city, comparing year over year again, showing that increase. Next is reviewing the water and sewer fund revenues. Through November, it's at about $2.8 million or 17% of budgeted expectations. At the top there, or at the bottom there, that kind of shows that entirety of the $2.8 million. Then it breaks it out between water income at $1.3 million, our 17%, wastewater income at $1.1 million, also 17%. Then our other fees, charges, and sales account for almost $400,000, and we're doing really well there as well. Lastly is a review of our hotel motel occupancy tax. It increased 21% compared to last year of November of 2020, and again, that's still kind of rebounding from those COVID numbers initially, and we're trending upwards as well there for 2020, 2021 when compared to the prior 2 years. It's following that same curve. And then does anybody have any questions regarding anything?
Being no questions, you want to go through the monthly status report some, please?
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a question?
Kind of give you the same numbers. That we didn't go over November, but just to know it's included in these numbers, at least for most of the slides you'll see there. As far as the waste connections, you'll see there November went down a little bit. I think the last we reported was October maybe. The complaints, as far as complaints, were under 100 for waste connections, but then kind of jumped a little bit back up in December for whatever reason. As far as first complaints go, you'll see the second complaints have gotten a little bit better, so they have been responding better to the first complaints. You'll see the little tiny blue bar up there. We're still continuously working with them. It's a daily battle. We do have some instances where, you know, sometimes customers don't understand the right pickup days. There's the bulk truck that goes by that'll pick up your bulk, but it won't pick up your trash can because the next one's going to come through and pick up your trash can. Because that happened to me personally. I was like, man, he didn't pick up my trash. But then I was like, I forgot he's the bulk guy and he only picks up the bulk. You know, so you have to remember those kind of things. So we do have some of those instances that happen. Waste Connections has been pretty responsive so far. We're still in the middle of the cart audit that we were doing because we did have quite a few customers that had 2 carts but weren't necessarily paying for 2 carts. I got an update from Juice yesterday. Brenda and her staff have been working on calling those. I think at this point they've called 486 customers to confirm and fix that. So once we kind of get through that process, then we're going to address some more of our concerns and complaints that we've had. They do have, Waste Connections is also having a supply problem with their toters. So if you can't get a toter quickly enough, you know, just be patient with them because they're pulling and scrapping, and they're even, right now I think they're starting to refurbish some of the ones that aren't in super bad condition to be able to refurbish and use those because they are short as supply. So I'm sure they're running out of supplies there. I know as far as some of the construction areas, we've had a lot of complaints, they're not picking up but a lot of the times, because they do, and you know, if you have a complaint, just let us know as soon as possible, because they do have cameras on those trucks. There was construction going on, because we do have a lot of places that press in. So we're continually working with them. We're addressing the issues that we have with them, and so just please keep those coming, because that's what we need to do to be able to hold them accountable for what we're paying them to do as well. So if you'll just keep those coming. So it gets better and then goes back down.
I think we talked about in a previous work session.
I think so. I want to say you're right, but we keep ours for, I think, 2 months, but I can't remember exactly what they keep theirs for. But it's pretty quickly, because they're saying, let us know, because they can check the cameras right away. And we've had that happen where, you know, actually just one today, they took a picture of the camera. They couldn't get by because the construction crews had put some asphalt and stuff in the way. So that does happen sometimes too. And so we just have to find alternative routes to be able to get those people taken care of and serviced. But yeah, they do. Thank you, Ben. So we are continually working on that. So that's something that that comes to that I deal with on a daily basis. So we're continually doing that to make that better. That's what we're trying to get to. You don't have all my deals are gone. All the charts are gone. Can you pull up the other one that has the charts on it?
You're supposed to just guess.
No. Pull up the one that you put in the packet. That will have the remaining of the charts on there. This one just had Waste Connections. Yeah, if you pull up the packet, it can. We can go off of that one. Sorry about that. The Waste Connections wasn't really originally included in your packet, so we had to go off of that one.
While we're waiting, I do have a question.
Okay.
I often see people complaining about they call Waste Connections and their problem doesn't get fixed.
Right.
Is Waste Connections doing the right thing and referring people back to Juice?
I don't know. I'll double confirm that. We've told them that, but
Yeah.
I can't say that they are doing
Yeah.
that, because they do have Stephanie, who is located here in Greenville, and she's very responsive with the Juice folks. I don't know that Stephanie directly deals with the customers.
I see.
So sometimes that does happen, but yes, I will confirm that. We've told them that several times.
I saw
that
a comment
those-
last week that somebody had called Juice, Waste
Waste
Connections,
Connections.
like 10 times. And I
Well,
thought,
you gonna
why
get-
isn't anybody telling this person to stop
to
doing
call
that?
Juice. Yeah, call Juice.
We've
and-
reminded people to do that.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
biases our.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
I replied in the same way, but if Waste
If Waste
Connections
Connections
isn't
isn't
telling
doing
them,
it,
then
yeah.
they may not ever get the message.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll confirm with, because I believe that their call center is in McKinney, where they take the calls. So I'll just make sure, hey, if you do get a complaint, what they're supposed to do there is at least copy Juice on the complaint if they do reply, let's say in writing. But as far as a phone call, like say I've called 10 times and there's no email, no response, then that could be the case as well. So I'll confirm that, but yes, we do. We've told them several times, but doesn't mean that their people listen either, so it happens. Okay, so we'll go through utility cuts. This is December 21st. There, and talking with press, that was down a little bit because asphalt was a little bit difficult to come by during the month of December, so there was just a smaller amount of utility cuts that they were able to do there. There's still a number of utility cuts. There's still a number of houses going in, so that hasn't slowed down. But as far as our contractor fixing those utility cuts has slowed a little bit, and it should pick back up come January, February, as long as hot mix is available. So as long as it's available, then they'll be getting it. And also good hot mix, not just any hot mix. You don't just want it from anywhere as well. So just keep that in mind too. Our potholes for our in-house crew, same. They've got an asterisk. It's down not as much as the contractor utility cuts, but we were still able to fix 69 of the potholes. Those are the smaller ones that we talked about, but same issue with the hot mix as well. And it's down there in the bottom it talks about. We're still able to street sweep about 50 miles for the street sweeper. We probably need to do a little bit more of that this month because, yeah, it was down. The actual street sweeper was down for a couple weeks there as well. So that should pick back up. And as the weather stays nice, that'll pick back up as well. Mowed areas, obviously the mowing season is a little bit down, so you know it's not as difficult to keep up with the mowed areas, but they did mow the same things and keep up with those same ditches and drainage that they did as well. And then obviously intersections cleared, still clearing those. There's still some weeded areas and places like that that still do grow because weeds grow in the winter, just not as much. So those were a little bit down as well. And then signs replaced was about 14, so about the same amount of signs. There's always cars that hit signs or things that blow them over or speed limit signs are upside down, things like that happen. So if you have any of those, just please report them. We have a really good in-house sign gentleman that will take care of it pretty quickly and get it on his list amongst the other things that he does as well. On the raw water line, I know this is a little difficult to read. In talking with press, they're in the design phase is about 10%, so we're moving along there. The city attorneys, Daniel has a dedicated has talked with the pipe supplier, and they'll allow us to provide pricing for the pipe in the second quarter of this year. So come second quarter of this year, we'll be able to get pricing. Hopefully we can lock it in and it's reasonable. At this point in time, we don't really know what that'll be, but hopefully, I mean, we've been working with them since before, but they could never guarantee us anything. They were in a hard spot. The supply chain issues hit them as well, so they weren't able to guarantee us anything at this point. So hopefully in that second quarter, press will stay on them, and they'll be able to provide us with that, and we can continue to move forward with that project, which was a $50 million project as well. And I'll take any more questions if y'all have any.
Are there any questions for Summer?
Any questions?
I have a question with the campaign season approaching. I see in the past I've seen political signs that are posted and block the vision on intersections. Is there some enforcement we can do on that, or is there an ordinance, or what's the situation on that?
Daniel, Steve's pointing at you.
Oh.
Political signs and intersections, or any enforcement that we could do?
Yeah, there's definitely enforcement. Those can be yanked up right away. I've done hundreds.
TxDOT does that, I know.
Well, we do.
The city, yeah, our code enforcement officers do that as well.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I just know, I'll take, for example, Terrell and Wesley. They always place signs right there by that intersection on the northwest corner of that intersection typically, and it really blocks traffic. I don't know who they is, but there's always political signs, 4x4 political signs there that block the vision on Wesley Street looking north, for example. That's just an example.
Yeah, and if they're in the right of way, they can be, our guys can be.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do regularly, and what they do is take them back down, and those people have a chance.
Well, I think it creates a traffic hazard, so I think we need to begin.
You said Terrell and Wesley?
Terrell and Wesley intersection, the northwest intersection, there's signs, they place signs there that have always blocked. It's it's a high traffic location,
Yeah,
so they do that, and it blocks the vision if you're either way.
We'll check that one tomorrow.
Yeah, just as an example, I'm sure they do it other places also.
Other than the sign, the location restrictions from the right of way, there's no longer any date restrictions that we can have for political.
You can leave a political sign up for
forever?
Forever.
Oh, wow.
Really? It used to be 60 days, right? Okay.
Wasn't there something like 10 days after the election or something as well?
60 days before and 10 days after, I think is what.
Okay.
I think our law may still say that, but it's not.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
So you sign people beware over there. Okay. There is no executive session tonight, and I just want to mention that this Saturday, we're going to have a citywide cleanup. There's information on the website about what items will be taken. And so Saturday, the 29th of January, will be our first cleanup first citywide cleanup for this year. And if you have questions, you can get on the website to do that. And I assume these presentations that we've seen tonight will also be on the website. Is that right? Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from council?
I just want to ask, can we look at lights in our neighborhoods? Like, there are a lot of night walkers, I call them. And in the area like where the middle school is, they're like walking zombies. But like where the middle school is, there's no lights and there's street lights, yeah. So a lot of the residents in those communities are complaining about people walking and then not be able to see them. A lot of those people also go to work early in the morning and they're kind of, terrified if it's that dark, even with a dim light on, anything can still happen to them. So can we look at that?
Yeah, we can. And we can also look at too, switching out those that I've seen at least. So we can look at that too, but we can certainly look at
in my neighborhood.
help, and then we can look at maybe putting 1 or 2 extras in there. And you're mainly talking about on Texas Street? Okay.
Forward, I think all of them are gone now. They asked questions about the street and took the time to come here and listen to Press's presentation and on this job. I hope they complimented you personally, and I hope that answers some of the questions. I'm not a big Facebook about streets. Tim raised one of the issues. A lot of people don't know which streets are supported by TxDOT and which streets we support. And I want to thank that. We're doing our best with this. One of the things that we originally planned was to spend this money over a 3.5-year period. And early on, we asked Press and Summer to expedite that and try to get all of that money spent in a 2-year time period, and he's doing his very best to do that, and we're going to try to do it in the fairest and best way possible. And the only other thing I want to say is I just want to compliment Mr. Freeman. He doesn't speak very often, but I want to compliment you on your comments tonight regarding that and asking our citizens to be patient. So thank you very much for that. And having said that, this meeting is adjourned.
The recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Need a part for the right price? Look for that red and blue sign. Henley Auto Supply at 1510 Stonewall. Over 800,000 CarQuest parts to choose from. Domestic, European, and Asian parts. Henley Auto Supply at 903-455-1969. 455-1969. Henley Auto Supply has the right parts to keep your vehicle running, and backed by the best hometown service. Henley Auto Supply. Great people, great products, great prices. Henley Auto Supply and CarQuest.